Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Ted Stewart. Thanks so much for joining me here today. Today's webinar is going to be on the IEC 61511 and IEC 62443 personnel competency and FAQ. Thanks so much for joining. Like I said, this morning's session went really well, so I hope this one goes just as good. And as we go through this presentation, this is an FAQ. I have put together probably a good 8 to 10 different questions that are always asked. We're going to go through those, and instead of just talking about what the answers are, I will actually show you where the answers lie within the websites and various information, so that because sometimes it's better to show than to just talk out everything. And that's what today's objective is. Let me go ahead and get started here. My name is Ted Stewart. I am the Program Development and Compliance Manager for exida. I started my career with Lockheed Martin. There I was a test engineer. It was in the Division of Missiles and Fire Control in Orlando, Florida. I worked there for a few years, and I transferred over to Harris Corporation. At Harris Corporation, I was a manufacturing engineer and also a new product introduction lead manager. I had 14 different classified products, and we basically made these products that could locate and track people. So it was a lot of fun. And probably one of the best career moves I made was transitioning from there and going with exida here. I've been with them for close to 6 years now, maybe 5.5. I get to help with the OEM certification division. I do some quality work, and more excitingly, I get to be responsible for all the new product development within a lot of standards that people like to fall asleep to. I know it's so for 61508 and 61511, those are like functional safety standards. Then you have IEC 62443 for cybersecurity. You have ISO 26262 for automotive, IEC 62061 and ISO 13849, which is machine, and then you have ANSI RIA 1506 for robotics. I always think it's kind of fun to put a little bit about myself as well. So hobbies, just for fun, I am an engineer around the clock. With the global company, you do have different meetings throughout the day and evenings because you're dealing with Asia Pacific region, Germany, the UK. So you always have to make yourself available. But when I do have time, I love to cycle and also do home renovation projects. So now you know a little bit about me. So exida. I got like 4 slides here about our company, and then I'll dive right into the meat of today's presentation. So once again, I do want to thank everybody. We are a global company. We do consulting work, certification work, and many other pillars of different industries, whether it's functional safety, alarm management, cybersecurity. Our latest office that we just opened was in India, in Mumbai. Previous to that was Japan. So we're very excited. We're growing really fast, and yeah, we're doing a lot of fun stuff, and I get to be a part of it. The different pillars that we have are consulting, engineering tools, the product certification, training, reference materials, and today, of course, we're going to be talking about the professional certification for functional safety and cybersecurity. Last slide until we get into the meat of our presentation. All of our methods and data that we publish are really for everyone's benefit. We feel really that we're an open book. We like to share our knowledge because we only feel like it strengthens the marketplace, because the faster we can get everybody else learning this information, the more we can move on to other things. And that's the name of the game. So we try and publish as many books as we can, as fast as we can. And we even give away, or we sell, obviously, or even our failure rate database that we've spent countless of thousands of hours developing over, at least a decade and a half of data we've compiled into that book there that we're always updating. Two of the most recent books that we've published are the Final Elements book. You see it in the bottom right-hand corner. That's by Chris O'Brien and Lauren Stewart. And then, of course, the Cybersecurity book, which is our newest of all books. That book is on the implementation of IEC 62443. That's the new standard. There's even some pieces of that standard that are still in draft. However, what we've done is we've compiled all the information, and we've kind of put a what's the best word for it? We kind of put almost a user's guide, or we made a book basically to help with the pragmatic approach of cybersecurity and how you can go through that standard to help mitigate and prevent different attack patterns. This book was written by Mike Medoff, Dave Gunter, and Patrick O'Brien. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. As we go through these questions, if you have questions that you'd like me to answer live, please, by all means, throw them in the question toolbar. I'll get to them at the end. And yeah, so let's go through them. The ones that I have here anyways. These are questions that people emailed me prior to today's webinar. So I kind of helped create this webinar on the fly with the live feedback that I got, whether it was through the LinkedIn post that we offered or just via email. So what is the difference between a certification and a certificate? We'll answer that question. We'll go through and say what is the program that's best for you. Another question that we get a lot is, when can I take a certificate program? So is there anything that keeps you from taking one? Are there any perks to taking a certificate or a certification exam? What is the application process? How much do these programs cost? We always hear that one. Are calculators permitted? Sometimes you don't think about that question, but we did. We just got that one recently. And then, okay, once I pass, how long is the certification good for? What if I forget to renew? And then how long does it take to get results? What I'm going to do, because people, they specified if they wanted a certificate or a certification, I'll actually answer every single one of these questions for a certificate program and then also for a certification program. That way you kind of see both sides, so it does apply to you regardless of where your interest levels lie. So the first question is, what's the difference between a certification and a certificate program? We put a chart in front of you to kind of go through a lot of the differences. Really, the biggest difference here with the certificate program is that it's one where individuals will take a training, right? Basically to gain that personal knowledge to better his or herself. And since this training course is mandatory, the individual will then take the course to pass an exam based off that training material. And that's when that certificate is awarded. And that's what you call a certificate program. Certificate program is when that training is mandatory, and after you pass that training, then all of a sudden you can take an exam and get a certificate. Let me do one quick check here just to make sure everyone can see my screen. Yes, they can. What I'd like to do now is I found, while someone asked this question, I did find a great table that ISA made. And so if I could go to it real quick right here. They basically have a table that shows their certificate program compared to other people's. And so when I found this, I wanted to share with you that not all certificate programs are created equal, right? And some people even mix what a certificate is compared to what a certification is, and they kind of just blend it all together. And so that's what I want to show today. If you look here, ISA, they have an ISA 84 system instrumented system assist expert, and they also have a specialist, right? So what this is saying is that you need 5 years experience in the industry, you have a 2-year for PHA or SIL selection, 2 years for SIL verification, right? So they have requirements. Okay, that's good. This is saying you must take all 3 courses, which is a total of 8 days. You also can do an 8-week online version. Remember, this is a certificate program, because what they're saying is you must take training courses. It's mandatory. So if it's mandatory, now we're talking about a certificate program. So they're saying you need all this, you need requirements to take these training courses, right? And then when you take these training courses, you have certain fees that are going to accumulate because you have to take all 3. And then of course, what's really nice though that they do is that everything is standardized. It's all by ISA. So you're going to have the same exam no matter where you take it, and you're going to have the same ISA courses. So that is a plus. If you want to take all 3 training courses, then that's up to you. But right, because this is a certificate program. And then they also have the specialist, where it's 4 days of mandatory courses, still 8 weeks. You have to take the exam, and then there's your costs. Okay, so that's a certificate program. CFSC is not. CFSC is a certification. That's by Exida, and a training course is not required. What could have been better here is if they put our certificate program, which would be, we have many depending on your industry. But for this sake, because it's all functional safety that this chart's showing, our FSP program, would fit really nicely right here. And you can see the differences. TUV Rhineland is also a certificate program. They require you take trainings. And interesting thing enough here, if you're an FSX, the exam is actually not required. I did not know that. But they also have a cost here, basically because they'll review and they'll assess your documents. So I believe how this works is they'll look at your resume, so to speak. You apply some documents. If they feel your documents meet their requirements after a nominal fee, I guess with or without an exam, and you have so many years of experience, they will grant you to be an expert. They also have an FS-Eng, where there is an exam. There's also a course that's required. So this, once again, is a certificate program. They have a course and exam with an approximate fee. You have certain years of experience. The interesting thing with TUV, though, is that experts create and teach the courses and create their own exams. I find that very fascinating that the organization does not have a standard, right? So what I mean is there's no bar. So if I take this course in Germany, if I take it in the United States, if I take it in the UK, if I take it in the Asia Pacific region, we can all be called the same thing. However, we all just took a different course based off a different material. So there's no real standard. However, with that being said, I'm sure a lot of these instructors are very great instructors, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear that with this organization and with ISA, you can tell that, look, there's conformity here and there's no conformity here, depending on, but remember, these are certificate programs. So it's not that you need to be stood next to somebody else, right? You want to make sure that you're competent on the material that was presented in front of you, and that's what you're going for. And so that was very interesting. I found that today, and I hope that helps everybody with this question here. All right, so let's go on. So I did put these in here just to show all the different types of certificate programs out there. I know here with Exida, we have a cybersecurity practitioner, alarm management, fire and gas, functional safety. ISA has one, and then of course TUV has their own as well. For the certifications, we have them in functional safety, right? Your CFSP are the most well known, and then of course now because cybersecurity is such a huge, basically growing exponentially, we now have programs for certifications for those leaders and those mentors in the industry that want to become those experts. We now have a certification course for them as well, so that now they can have those titles as well. Okay, good questions. Just to show one more slide on the different levels of the competency here, you do have a certificate program, and then as you move up, because I didn't specify in the last slide, the the certificate program is that right side of that chart that I previously had showed here, right? So here's your certificate program, and then on the certification side, you'll see that the CFSP or CACS, which is your Certified Functional Safety Professional, and the Certified Automation Cybersecurity Specialist. These are one tier below, which I kind of called the two at the top, the gold standard, right, for functional safety and cybersecurity. And what makes a certification different is that you have to operate per 17024, whereas a certificate program you do not. All right, so there's a lot of extra work and due diligence that has to go in to be able to have a program like these. Whereas if you are only a certificate program, you don't even need to really have any kind of requirements to follow. The next question that I received was, well, what's the best program for me? The slide here, after doing the presentation this morning, the step one, step two thing makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for everybody. Because when you ask yourself questions, right, you kind of think about, well, what's your current role? Are you a functional safety engineer? Do you work with products that are safety devices? Are you someone that enjoys just learning? Are you looking to advance your career? Maybe you're a plant manager, or you could even just be working on the line, right? Or monitoring devices. All of these things are great if you want for you. And I would say your first step would be, look, be that certificate. Go get a certificate. Do the program, go get the training, because I do believe that is a great step, and that might be the only step you need to meet. However, if you're someone that actually deals with the safety device. Maybe you're the functional safety, you have a title called functional safety lead or functional safety engineer, or you're always in the realm of functional safety or even cybersecurity now, OT, cybersecurity, let's call it that, then the certification route is probably your best bet. Of course, you can always go a certificate route first, whether it's through exida, ISA, or what have you, and then go to the certification once you're prepared, you've trained. I always say you like to sharpen your axe before you cut a tree down, right? That's kind of the same thing here, unless you have that 10, 15, 20 years of experience, you've always been in it anyways. Maybe you don't need a refresher course. Maybe you can just grab the respective standards, whether it's IEC 62443, or you can even say ISA 62443, or IEC 61508 for functional safety. Grab the respective standards, know where things are, and then go and take these exams and become that expert, because we're always looking for more people to help lead us in this industry. So that's really my biggest thing, is if you're a leader, a mentor, you have that functional safety engineer title, or maybe you're looking to get a job in functional safety, a lot of what can I say? A lot of roles or job inquiries out there, they're asking for people to have like a CFSP or CFSC or CACE, CACS. They're asking for those things. They're asking for this competency, especially since now the new standard of IEC61511, they've now beefed up the language in there. That competency is a much bigger thing now. They now provide evidence of competency when you need to comply to that standard. All right, so when can I take an exam? Well, certificate program, look, now I'm going to just speak of exida here. For us, we don't feel if you're taking a certificate program, we don't feel that you need a requirement. You don't need experience to take a training class. Yes, we do require that you have to take that training, but there's no I kind of want to think like it's almost like an old-fashioned thinking in the sense that with age comes wisdom, right? Well, I do believe that so many people, the curriculums in schools and even at work, the bar is getting so high that people at younger ages are able to learn more because they're involved with it so much earlier in their time frame. They're starting to learn about functional safety now in college. I even saw someone previously, they had a course on functional safety in high school. I've never heard of that before, but they're starting now to incorporate cybersecurity, even degrees. And so now, when we say, hey, there's a certificate program out there, we say, look, well, you don't need that requirement. You don't need that experience requirement. We really say, look, if you can pass that exam at the end of that training, then you should have that certificate. So let me jump off of the presentation slide and let's go and do the certificate program and say, okay, when can I sign up? Well, for us, what you would want to do is, if you want a certificate program, the first thing is what? Well, training is mandatory, right? So you're going to want to go to the courses. So if you go to training, go to course offerings, and then you can first see, okay, well, what's out there that fits what I need to learn, okay? Sure, you can come and you can see, oh, look, there's the FSP, the CSP, the AMP, the FGP, right? A lot of acronyms. At least they spell them out for us. But the course offerings, if you want to take something in alarm management, automotive, right? So these are all the trainings that you could take. Engineering tools, functional safety. Here's your 615, right? Here's the most common one, the FSC 100. You have industrial cybersecurity automation classes here. And then, of course, you got your robotics and machine safety. So the first step for you is, hey, okay, what training course do I want to take? All right, you figure that out. So then you want to come up here to public course schedule. You want to make sure, okay, so when can I take the exam? Well, let's find out when I can take it. Here are all the different regions, right? You can even take a lot of these courses online, but for the sake of today, I'm going to choose North America training. We'll let that load. Now I'm in here and I say, hey, look, there's 23 inquiries or entries for me to take this certificate program or for me to take this training class. I'll just pick one here, FSC 100. That's one of the most common ones that's coming up here in the next few weeks. Here we go. Here's all of my information, of course, descriptions, and then down here it even talks about the FSP. So if I want to get this certificate, now I know I can take this class, click enroll now, and there I go. I'm good to go, and I can move forward. Now, yeah, let's talk about the certification program. Okay, what program or when can you take a certification? Well, if I go to the CFSC website, you can come up here to what is called exam dates, right? It's exidacfsc.com. If you need any of these links, let me know. I can always just send them to you. But if I go to the exam dates, once again, you have all your different regions. I can click all regions, right? And then you can see, you can come in here and you can say, when do I want to take it? Where do I want to travel? Or you can say, hey, where would I like to vacation? And just kind of incorporate it into my exam taking. But if I want to be in Europe, I'm in Warwick, right here, December 7th, I can get more details. I can go through here and know this is where I'm going to be able to take my exam. Usually these things line up nicely. There's usually a lot of trainings around the same time period. So if you did want a refresher, you could take one of those refresher trainings and then the exam would be on another day. You can see here in India, we have one in January. Another thing I did like to mention that we don't spell out, if you're somebody, if you're an organization, a company, or even a consultant, and you have like 5 or 6 people that want to take any exam, it doesn't have to be even the same exam, but if you get enough people in seats, you can actually recommend and ask if your company, your organization, can host an exam. If that company can go through the vetting process, can have a proctor that gets interviewed by our administration and everything passes, they sign all the forms, you actually don't have to travel to one of these exam dates if you have enough people. I think it's like 6 people. I think that's what I said. If you have that many people, we would then allow you to host it at your own facility, take the exam. Like I said, if it goes through the whole vetting process with the proctor, and that would save your organization probably a lot of travel expenses as well. But that is an option. That's something you should keep in the back of your mind. So when you're going through this process and you want to take the exam, that is a very good opportunity for you. Okay, let's get back to this presentation. Hopefully that was, and I like trying to show how you find these answers instead of just talking to everyone. I'm a more visual person. All right, so let's talk about the perks, right? That was another question. What are these perks to a certificate or a certification? Well, there's some really great ones, and they're becoming more and more important, especially with now that the standards are becoming, having the stronger language inside of them. You want to tell people about your competency because it only improves your value even in your company as an employee. It'll differentiate yourself from the competitors. The certificate program is great if you're looking to be a mentor or a leader in the industry as well, because this kind of gives you that benchmark. When you go through these training classes, you can kind of see where your strengths and your weaknesses lie. One of my favorite things, I put my signature actually at the bottom right-hand side, is it allows you to insert the your competencies, right? So now that I've passed, you can see the second one, exida CSP, because I've passed and took the training course for cybersecurity, I now am allowed to put that on my signature. And I think that's a huge, huge piece of it. And I think many people overlook that. And I put another one at the top there, which I thought was a different creative way. I didn't want to put the person's name there, but they put the actual logo CSP, and they put their certificate number also. They call it an exida automation cybersecurity practitioner. I thought that was a very great way of putting their signature together. Now let's talk about the certification, right? So this is what I did call the gold standard. This really does differentiate yourself. People are now getting jobs by having this type of competency. It's in those job requirements that they're requiring people to have. You're like I said, you're now looked upon as some kind of mastery. You have that level of competency. What's great about the certificate program is because it's not based off of training, nobody can say, oh, it's because you took it with this instructor. Oh, it's because you took it with that instructor. Oh, yeah, sure, you understood that training material, and in 4 days you're able to take an exam based off of it. But this is based off of industry best practices and the respective standards. Even as the standards update, you're expected to even know the updated information. And that's what's so critical, and that's what separates a certificate from a certification. Once again, another great thing that people take a lot of advantage of is they add it into their signature. I kind of made this one up on the bottom left-hand side. You can see how you can use the logo, You can add it in the actual signature name. On the right-hand side, you'll see my name, right? You can see that I became a CFSP. Yes, I know I need to take my CFSC. I haven't got around to it yet, but I did successfully achieve that for my functional safety competency. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and those are some great perks. And there's other perks too, but for the sake of today's webinar and trying to be careful and sensitive to everyone's time, I'll leave those perks at that. The next thing, what is the application process? All right, well, let's start with the certificate program. The application process for the certificate program is pretty basic. You sign up for your training, and the great thing with a certificate program through exida that I know is that because there's no requirements, the certificate program is actually included at no extra cost to the training class. When that was done, I don't know if it was intended to be free, but it ended up, and then our program decided not to change it. We just left it as is. We wanted people to, because what we realized is there's a lot of people that need that justification to go and take trainings. So now people can get funding to take certain training classes because they can come back with the certificate and say, look, I retained the information. Here's my evidence of my competency that you put me through this course, and now I came back and now I've mastered that skill set, right? I've learned and listened to that information and I have it. Certification program is different. The application process is a little more intense. I can quickly run through it with here. The application process, what you want to do is you want to go to resources. Okay, if you go to CFSC, and if you're doing cybersecurity, it's the same thing, right? You can go to resources here as well. But let's go to CFSC, we'll go to forms and documents, and you can see here's your application, whether you want to do an upgrade, a normal application, or a renewal. And of course, there's other things in here as well, where if you want the checklist, a checklist looks like this, where it helps you make sure you don't forget anything. Here's your application, you need a code of conduct. Make sure you include your education, your case study, your referees, and your payment. If we go to the application form, what you're going to see here is exactly that. This application form has now been tailored so that it can be for functional safety and cybersecurity. Cybersecurity does have different specialties. They aren't listed here just yet, but just so that you know that. Here's a quick little checklist. There's even, a lot of people didn't realize, it's not part of my question today, but that there is even a referral program. So if you do refer candidates to take these exams, you can start receiving discounts off your next renewal and other things, I believe. On the application form, there are some frequently asked questions for the exam to help you out. So when you go through, make sure that you are very prepared to take these exams. These exams are they are difficult exams, but if you've been doing this forever, then it'll be no problem for you. Going through the application form, you can see you want to select which type you're going for, what's your specialty, your personal information, licenses, education, and basically all the basic stuff, your payment and validation, and of course your code of conduct. So that's the application. One other thing though, that in the application process that you should be made aware that's not spelled out in this form is that when you are filling out this application, make sure that you get this submitted within 2 weeks before the exam. That's one of the biggest things, because the closer you get, there's actually fees that could accrue, like a late fee, right? I believe if I go in here, if you're like within the week of the exam, there's actually a fee, because then what? They have to process that to make sure you meet all the requirements. You're even applicable to take the exam. So make sure you turn it in 2 weeks before the exam. The other thing, the referee statement, we understand for the referee statement that that's other people saying that you are okay, that they recommend you to take this type of exam. We want referrals. So the referee, for an expert level, you need 4. And for the professional or the specialist level, you need only 2. But they are accepted even 90 days after you take the exam. So that's something that we do want to put pressure on the people that are trying to give us these referrals, but you do have time, even if you have to take the exam without the referrals. You still have 90 days after the exam to get those turned in. The other thing is you want to make sure that you have copies of your licenses, your registrations, your certifications. These are due 90 days after the exam. You don't have to have it right away. One thing that you need to have before the exam, of course, is payment. So really the application and the payment need to be 2 weeks in before that exam when you do this whole process. So I just wanted to make sure that was a little more clear, because that's not spelled out in writing. It is throughout the websites, and I believe it's in some of the welcome emails that get sent out, but it's always nice to confirm. All right, next question we have here. How much do these programs cost? Right, so you have a certificate program, you have a certification program. The certificate program is really as much as the trainings cost. So if you went back to here, you can see for ISA, you're looking to spend, close to $4,500. With TV, you're looking at a little over $3,000. C4C, there's no training. That's a certificate program, but I can go to the website and I can show you, but that's only $800. For Exodus CFSP, excuse me, the FSP, right, the certificate program. Oh, good, I'm already here. So this was the training course we were looking at earlier. If you hit enroll now, so if you go through, you pick the course you want, and then you find enroll now, click on enroll now, and you can see the cost of the training. So this training includes the FSP. It tells you what it goes through. It's a 4-day course, right? It includes the safety book package, so it looks like you get 3 books. That's nice. I didn't realize you get all that too. And then you also get the FSP certificate, or you take the exam, right? Here's your books that you get as well. So if I click on that, so yeah, so that actually includes these 3 books. That's really nice, actually. Okay, now if we go to the C4C website, so if you want to know how much the certification costs, right, you got to remember you're not paying for a training because you don't need one. If you're an expert in the industry, that should not be a requirement. So when you go through to the different fees, you can see the C4C is $800 if you need to retake it. If you want to upgrade from a P to an E, right, you could do that at a discounted rate. And there's all kinds of things there. If you want to be a CFSP, it's $700, and you can just go through this. But yeah, all your costs are here. All I did was I went to the pay fees area, right, from CFSC, and that's where it is. So that was a good question. All right, let's continue here. Are calculators permitted? This is not one that I think about all the time, but as always, people always ask us, because why? Because when you're dealing with functional safety, not so much cybersecurity, but when you're dealing with functional safety, you do need a calculator sometimes. There's equations there that you need to figure out. And for the certificate program, no, there's no requirements. Bring anything that you want. Really, I mean, even so far, any class that I've taken so far, my phone was enough calculator. I didn't really need anything special. But no, you will not run into a situation where you need any specific calculator. For the certification program, it's different. You do. It's pretty detailed in a sense. There is a list of approved calculators, and the reason for that is when you're sitting in on this exam, we don't want people to have smart calculators that they could program in and put things in there to help give themselves an unfair advantage. And so that's why we basically say all non-programmable calculators, except if they're on this list as well, right? So all TI-30X and TI-36X, your Hewlett-Packard, Casios, these certain models are the only ones that are permitted, and it's so that we can get people don't get an unfair advantage. But that is a really good question that sometimes doesn't get brought up. However, I did notice in the frequently asked questions for the exam, when we were looking at the application, it did list the different calculators that were allowed. Once I pass, how long is my certification good for? The certificate program, there is no expiration date. So once you go to that training class, you pass that exam, you are good to go. You can keep that those letters on your signature. You can keep that certificate on your wall. You will not expire. I know. There are agencies, all agencies pretty much besides us, they put expiration dates on their training programs, or they call them their certificate programs. But look, our stance is that we feel that those who are taking a training or taking that certificate program, they're looking to learn. Okay, they aren't going into this training saying, I want to be a leader, so I need to take this training class to pass this exam. No, you don't have leaders saying that. Sure, leaders take exams. They don't feel like they know everything because people are constantly learning all the time. But so we didn't want to put that false representation that saying, hey, if you take this training class, you now have to update every 3 years just because you took a training class, right? No, we feel the opposite. We feel, look, what we do is we encourage people to take other training classes, continue their learning. There's many FSPs that you could even take, right? Each training class is a separate one. Even if you jump into alarm management, if you want to learn a little bit about cybersecurity, we're not going to tell you, oh, now you have to renew all these different titles, right? No. But the certification is different. The certification are those leaders, those mentors, those people that don't need the training, but we need to make sure, because they're not taking any kind of training and they're telling us that they're the experts, we want to make sure that they're keeping up with their education. We want to make sure they're still in the field. We want to make sure that they're not holding a title and then they switch industries completely and they became a store owner of something else, right? We want to make sure that those with that title are truly in our industry, are truly in the positions needed to be that expert or that mentor. And so, we've removed many titles away from people that aren't in the field anymore, and that's only fair. Now, on the same token, if someone did get out of the industry but they're still practicing, they're still doing training, then they are allowed to hold that title. But we just want to keep the validity there. We want to make sure we don't muddy the waters and just say, yeah, just pay us a fee and you're good to go. Yeah, that's fine. We don't care. Hey, you need to take my training class again if you want to hold on to that title. No, that's just the way we do things. So I hope that made sense. All right. This one, I like my graphic there, sorry. What if I forgot to renew? That's a good question, and it's something that we can help explain a little bit here. Certificate program, hey, don't worry about it, no problem. It doesn't expire, right? We went over that. But the certification is different. Certification, it does have an expiration date, and I've kind of explained why we have an expiration date. So if you did forget to renew, or let's say we've been trying to contact you and your email's been bouncing, or there's some kind of filter that it goes to your spam folder and you didn't realize that we've been trying to get you to renew, and we're checking in to make sure that you're still in the industry. If you find out a month or two later, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll take care of you, right? So we'll say, hey, look, if you're renew, all we need to do is do the renewal form, fill everything out, let us know you've still been in the industry, show us where you've been currently working, and provide that justification. And then what happens, whether you renew, if you forgot, or even if you didn't forget, and maybe you submitted your form early, the expiration of that certification, the renewal starts on that same day, right? So whether you do it early or late, it goes straight to the expiration, because you never want to lapse in coverage. Now, it's the same thing I know in the Americas here, that even with home insurance, right? You can't have a lapse in coverage. If you have a lapse, you don't get to renew. You got to get a whole new policy. So you never want to forget there. Here, at least, if we say, okay, yeah, if you forget, that's okay, but we're going to backdate you to the actual expiration date. That way, and once you provide evidence of that overlap, right, that you were still in the industry, then we can keep you through and you don't have to renew. If by any chance you say, no, I don't like that, it's been a year since I've been expired, I want 3 years from today. Well, you have that option too, except you're going to have to take the exam. And then once you pass that exam, then you get 3 years from that point. I hope that makes sense, right? Because we have some people that fall out and all of a sudden they hit us in the blue. It's been a year from when they expired. We didn't even think they were in the industry anymore, or they didn't realize that they were expired. And somebody says, hey, can you provide your evidence that you're a CFSE? And they say, oh, I can, but it shows that I'm expired. If you come back to us and you want to renew, you've already missed a year there, so you'll renew and you actually will going to get 2 more years of being valid, right? If you don't like that, you can just redo the exam real quick and then you get that 3 years. But that's just how it works. So I hope that cleared that question up. That was a really good question. I had to put some thought behind that one. So how long does it take to get your results? Well, for a certificate program, and the certificate program is basically instantaneous, right? So you're going to take this exam in class. It's the last hour of that training course. At the end of there, the instructor grades your exams, and as long as you pass, you'll get the participation certificate for your credits, and then you also get the certificate showing that you passed and that you are now whether it's a CSP, an FSP, or a fire and gas practitioner, whatever it may be. You now get that certificate. If for any reason if there's a situation where you'd prefer the instructor not grade in front of everybody, we've had this before, that's okay. As long as it's known ahead of time, that instructor will then just grade all the exams that evening. Everybody will get an email with their papers, right? With if they passed or they didn't pass, and that's completely fine too. Certification is different. Certification, this is the one where some people understand and some don't understand, right? Because our policy says that we have 6 to 8 weeks to grade your exam. You know, some people, they kind of go, whoa, why does it take so long? Well, let me quickly explain what goes into, because we have to operate per 17024. Because you have to keep everything impartial. We're not even allowed to know who are the people that take the exam. Everyone gives giving a number. That way you keep everything fair, nothing's biased. And so what we do is after that exam gets graded, it gets put into an envelope with your number. It gets sealed, and that envelope does not get open until it reaches back at the corporate office. When it gets to the corporate office, all those people see are these numbers. Those numbers get scanned, they get put into the database. Good news now is, now that we've changed our process slightly, those now get scanned, put into the database, but now we can send electronic copies of the exam to the different graders. Why that's so great is because before, the graders that we use graders around the world. So they can be in New Zealand, they can be in Asia Pacific, they can be here somewhere in the United States, they can be in Germany, right? They can be in the UK, they can be in South Africa. So our graders now can get an electronic copy instead of getting it mailed to them. That saves us time. They now fill out the exam, they email it back to us, and then we find another grader in a different part of the world. We send it out to a second grader, they grade the exam, it then comes back. As long as there's no discrepancies when it's being graded, if there is, those two graders now have to talk out the discrepancies on that exam to make sure that they both agree. Once that happens, then the results become final. We put them into the database, the email goes out, and the candidate is now knowledged on whether or not they passed. And so that's what takes so long, but we have to do it because it has to remain impartial. We don't want any biased decisions, and that's the process. We are talking and entertaining. There's 3 companies right now asking us if we'd ever consider going to an online exam. That is in the talk, but right now we have to make sure we comply to 17024, and those companies are struggling right now to make sure that they do comply to that standard. And once we can figure something out, we might be able to even reduce that grading time a lot more. Those were the questions. Those are the top questions people asked. I do see I have a couple questions here that I will answer. I got 2 real quick slides before I answer those questions. Take advantage of this. I know a lot of times we give webinars, we kind of fly through this slide and the next slide, but take advantage. We're always giving away stuff. We're always giving white papers, webinars, all these new topics. If you're a part of one of these platforms with us, you'll at least find out ahead of time. Whether you do anything with it or not, that's up to you. I don't want, even if you want to just connect with me, I even put my picture in the bottom left-hand corner there, so that if you want to connect with me, I'm always trying to let people know what's the latest and greatest thing out there. You can, like I said, take it for what it's worth, use the information to your benefit. I can even provide all the answers to your questions, and then you can run off and be that expert. I don't mind. You know, I just want to make sure we get everyone the information they need ahead of time. As far as training courses are concerned, here are the most recent ones. Like I said, I showed you how to get to the different training courses. The 2 I like to point out because they seem to be hot ones right now, besides cybersecurity, are HAZOP and the LOPA course right there, FSC 222 and FSC 224. Those are going to be in Houston. Those are going to be really exciting classes. But of course, if you're into functional safety, alarm management, cybersecurity, there's something around your area. And if you don't have it, we now are starting to do more online as well. All right, so now let's get to these questions. The first question I have, let me open up this toolbar, making sure I don't have even more. The first question I have here is, I am a TUV Rhineland FSEng. Can I be an expert? Yeah, well, I mean, okay, look, the word expert gets thrown around like the term engineer in a sense. Everyone can call themselves an engineer, which is fine, but you need to define what expert even means. So yeah, if you've already gone through and you did the certificate program, which it sounds like you did, congratulations, that's great. Do you need to be an expert? I don't know. I don't know what your role is. If you are someone that is in functional safety and that is your main goal, I would say absolutely. You're already halfway there to becoming that expert. All you now need to do is take your reference materials. If you need to get refresher courses, take the refresher courses. But by all means, we're looking for more experts in our industry because that's only going to help everybody else. If we have more people helping in functional safety, helping in cybersecurity and alarm management, we can now focus our attention to other things to help, grow this industry. If you want help on, I don't know, what standards you should have, how to prepare, things like that, yeah, that's no problem. We can definitely give you some words of wisdom, some advice, in my opinion, right? That's all we can do. Or just different questions to ask when you're shopping around, figuring out where you want to go. We can definitely help provide different types of questions. Good question though. I got a follow up to that. If I'm already an FSEng, am I considered a CFSE? Unfortunately not, because of how that program is run and because there's no standardization, right? If I go back to it, see if I can do that real quick here. Do I have it open still? Yes, I do. Because they don't standardize the course material and they make it mandatory for your training classes, you cannot consider that a certification. I know they call it a certification, but it's really just a certificate with a high level of experience, right? So they basically say you need 10 years of experience to do these training classes to be considered an FX expert or 3 years for an FSEng. So it's a little misleading, but that's how they run their program. It's a very successful program, but yeah, leave it at that. But good question. So no, you'd still need to take this exam if you want to be considered a CFSE. Any other questions? Another question here, it's in regards to training. The question that I see is they basically, what's it saying? They were looking at the training classes and there was not one in their area. What can they do? Good question. It's the same thing for training classes. You can do this also with, I spoke about it for certifications as well. Like if you want to do something in-house, you can do that with a company. You can have trainings also in-house. So if you see a training class, say you're going through here, let me back this up. So course schedule maybe. See if I can quickly get here without taking too much time. Well, why that things? What you can do is you can scroll through the list of training classes, say, okay, well, I do have 5 or 6 people that need to take a training. So, if you're going through here and you say, hey, automotive, right? I'd like to take automotive 212. I have 6 people, send that email to us and you don't have to wait. You can actually just say, I'd like to take this, and we can send somebody to your facility and you can conduct that training. Same thing if you have people around the world and you need one location. We can offer the trainings at our facility, right? And then all of a sudden you don't have to worry about any fees, like for proctoring fees or training fees, because why? You have somebody here at exida that's just going to do it. All the experts are just, if we can find time away from their projects, they can just do it there. Same thing with the certifications. If you want to take your CFSP or CFSE, you don't see anything there. If you don't mind flying, fly to our building, and you pretty much any day of the week during business hours, you can take your certification exam. A lot of people didn't realize that either. Good question. All right, those are all my questions. I really appreciate everyone's time today. If you have more, feel free to reach out to me. I have my email right here in front of you. Connect with me, ask away. All the questions for that from this morning session, I'll also add on, and I'll send everyone the PDF with all the answers and slides, and this recording of this webinar will be on our social media platform. So thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time. Have a great rest of the day. Take care for now. Bye-bye.